All right, we continue this journey on of ranking factions, and you're probably tired of hearing us say this, but if this is the first one that you're watching, welcome to the first time watching. Make sure to subscribe, turn the bell on so you can see all the videos and get notified when we put them out. We do battle reports, lots of different content. This content in particular, we are going to be rating and ranking factions off of these 6 statistics: defense, offense, primary, secondary, CP farm, and list flexibility. We'll kind of get in what each one is as we start to rank them. We're using the Space Marines as our baseline to compare to and work off of, so we don't like completely skew one faction one way or another. And yeah, we're joined always by Damien and Thomas. So we're doing Craftworld Eldar, my babies, today.
That's right. So we did our gut check, kind of off the cuff tier lists, and then now we're going to do sort of a little bit more in-depth analysis. So here we're talking about Eldar, where we start defense, how good are Eldar on defense, and again, it doesn't have to necessarily be per model hard to kill. Mm-hmm. It can be mobility, it can be caginess, hiding, psychic powers, something that keeps them alive. Where do they fit on defense?
I honestly think that on defense, they are really strong. They have a lot of models that are T7 or T8. They have a decent amount of invuln saves on their stuff that's a little squishier, like their War Walkers or their Shining Spears.
And everybody hates freaking the vehicles. Why can't I think what they're called?
Wave Serpents with the minus 1 damage. You can put 6. You could put 6 up Feel No Pains on the entire army with either Uthway or with Spirit Stones. So they've got a lot of deterrence. They are harder to kill. They've got Fire and Fade for a mobility defensive tactic to be able to hide behind stuff, so they could pop out, shoot you, run away. They do also, and I think this is a big thing, they have the redeploy strat. So like when you deploy, if you're going second, now defensively I can redeploy 3 units so I could be more aggressive on a deployment, and then I can be like, bah, 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 right? So I think that they're really high. They have a lot of stuff there. They do have squishy units, but there's ways to make those squishy units have invulns and Feel No Pains at a fairly cheap cost. Like I could literally go, hey, I'm Uthway, here's a 150-point character, Osterman, and here's all my Dire Avengers, or just here's my Dire Avengers, and they all have invulns anyways. Now I have invulns with 6 up Feel No Pains on everything in the army.
Yeah, you give audience invulns. Yeah, there's lots of ways. Or you have lots of transports. I mean, the vehicles that don't work can actually hold guys, right? So you got ways to protect those squishy troops. So yeah, I would rate them pretty high. So I mean, is that high like a 10? Is that high like an 8? Where does that fall on the scale?
So I think what we've done before is like Space Marines are an 8. I think that they're probably pretty close to on par with that. They do have a lot of ways that they are just as durable and have good defense as Space Marines. Because of the redeploying strat, and not all Space Marines can do that, and because they have like Fire and Fade, and the ways to get the Feel No Pains to everybody very easily, I would almost say they're a 9.
You were a 9, yeah. I think they're a little bit more. I mean,
I was talking myself up to it to make sure I wasn't crazy.
And, you can't knock the mobility, right? Just being able to move super fast is a whole different defense in all its own. Right? If you can't get an angle to shoot with the new terrain, I can fly over this wall so this building is not blocking my movement. Now you can't shoot me because it's obscuring.
And they have, and you got the force to protect them, but then they got lightning fast reflexes, which they can use in combat or shooting if you really want to spend the CP to do it to keep something alive more. So there's a lot there.
All right, so pretty defensive. Well, what about offensive? Can they kill anything?
They can kill everything. I mean, you've got Guide and Doom, like, right? They got crazy psychic powers that help them offensively, which actually help them defensively too to make them up that high. Like you can,
and their mortal wound output with psychic powers is pretty strong.
It's pretty strong. I mean, you got Smite, you got Executioners, you've got you throw in a Ynnari character in with them, it buffs it even more. I know we're not doing one specifically on Ynnari, so we'll just kind of talk about how they help or hurt kind of each Eldar faction. I guess we could do a Ynnari one, but we didn't have that in our original one. So they do have mortal wound output. They have tons of different weapons, right? Like you can put on their vehicles, they're not stuck to like one weapon. You can be like, oh, I need to adapt and be able to kill infantry, so I could have a bunch of shurikens or scatter lasers, or I need to.
Or missiles, right?
You got the missile launchers, you got star cannons, you got bright lances, and that's interchangeable on every model. So whether it's a Viper, or Warwalker, or Wraith, or a vehicle, you could put whatever guns you want on them, and you can be like, I need this vehicle or this unit for this tool set, and I can have this same weapon that I had on my other one. So yeah, they're super strong. I mean, their spears are super fast and super strong. You can move them, advance them, charge. You can double move them. You can back out of combat, still shoot and charge, for CP. So like, they've got a lot of stuff going their way.
Yeah, they got some great artillery with the night spinners. They got a lot of long-range shooting. The planes are a little bit more expensive, but their planes are really strong.
Fire prisms, dude. Destroy on offense.
They can definitely wreck, and their CP to reroll all hits and wounds is super strong. So offensively, super strong. So is that all the way to the 10? Like, is there nothing more killy than a juiced up Eldar list?
I mean, shooting Admech is better than them.
So they're 9 if there's a maximum scale, or
this is interesting though. They actually both might be a 10 because Admech doesn't have the mortal wound output and Eldar does. That would be my argument. They shoot better, but they don't have mortal wound output. Eldar make it up by having the mortal wound output.
Well,
Doom and Guide and stuff like that.
Definitely dump out more wounds with their shooting scraps. They're doing it in the second phase, but they definitely can dump out a ton of mortal wounds.
Does that make up for no psychic phase? How is a psychic phase over a shooting? So,
I would say, well, I mean, we're comparing the different things now. We don't. That's not.
Are they a 9 or a 10?
I would give them a 9. I think they're 9.
I'd say they're 9. And maybe that is wrong, but I think that they are where it kind of lacks a little bit is kind of just the damage output that comes out of the weapons.
Yeah, they like high quality shooting, but they have volume of shooting.
And also a lot of that, like star cannons and things like that, that D6 damage is so stinking swingy that like it's just not.
Well, that's the missile launchers and Bray Lances. The star cannons are D3.
Oh, sorry. Okay, well, sorry. This star lances or whatever, bright cannons, whatever you want to call them.
He doesn't know.
But they do have the indirect fire, which makes them very strong from those guys. And then also if you couple it with like master artisans or master crafted weapons or whatever it's called, it does make it. I don't know. Maybe you do put it at 10.
I will leave him at 9. I will leave him at 9.
Okay, we'll leave him at 9.
All right, leave it there for now.
Primaries, honestly, they do primary really freaking good. Like wave serpents.
Jump on exactly. They're very mobile. I get on this thing. It's hard to kill. Guys fall out. OPSEC. So they do that whole kind of Russian dolls strategy very well. And then it's kind of like, are you shooting at the thing in the back that's killing you, or are you trying to shoot this stupid annoying wave serpent that now has guys inside
that doesn't die?
Warp spiders.
They can super bubble, jumping around.
Hawks. Like they have so many abilities. You can just pay CP at the start of the game, hide stuff in deep strike. So like their ability to deep strike and come down anywhere is really gonna allow them to also help with the primaries. I don't know where they start to struggle in the primary with OBSEC. If you build a full mech list, you're going to lose the primaries drastically to like Custode or Space Wolves, right? Stuff that wants to be in your face, be in close combat, and has anything that is OBSEC, you're going to start losing the games because they're not afraid of touching your tanks. They're not afraid of touching your little walkers and stuff like that. So I think that's where they'll struggle and why I wouldn't give them a 10. I would honestly say those builds that are really, really strong offensively are going to lack in the primary. So in order to build for the primary, you're going to lose a little bit of your offense.
And like we talk about this all the time, right? Like the transition from 8th and 9th is hard because you're really used to building and thinking about killing things, and you have to make a lot of trade-offs sometimes to kind of score the primary objectives, and giving up killing really and scoring primary is really usually more important.
Yeah, so I think I'd go with an 8. I honestly might even go with a 7 just because of the cost to hold the primary, right? A Wave Serpent is 180 points ish. Then you're going to want it filled with guys. So now you're committing basically 220, 230 points to go and hold an objective, right?
Right. That's not killing anything.
That's
right?
not killing anything.
Contributing to offense in any meaningful way. Yeah, you got some guns on the Wave Serpent, but not really, right? So that's not what it's there to do. So I agree. I would probably make him a 7, quite honestly.
Yeah. And then if you are building those lists, like I said, it gets touched. And now they're safe. They're getting OBSEC over you. You're giving them the free movement to get onto that objective because it's this big vehicle, right? So, yeah, I think those would be the negatives. Secondaries, honestly, like
How do you stop?
I think they're a 10 on secondaries. They can literally pick any secondary in the book, and they can pretty much do it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're not picking a Pour the Witch.
Although,
yeah,
I would say they do give up secondaries, though.
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Like Abhor the Witch, if you don't have psychers in your list, it's almost a freebie because you usually have at least 3 psychers in your list.
No, I think he'd get away with just 2 psychers. Brad usually runs a split because he's playing clowns, but like Eldar only really need 2 psychers. They don't need to run.
My current one is only 2. I dropped it from 4 down to 2.
And they're hard
for that reason.
And with the bikes, they're potentially like, if they need to get out of dodge, they can just run away, right? Like like they don't have to.
Honestly, one of the stronger lists is a Ynnari form of the Wraith Seers. And like, yes, the Wraith Seers are psychers and they can't really do much, but like they're characters that don't die, and then typically you're just gonna have a Farseer or like Yvrain that goes with them. So it's like I don't think, and even in just a pure Craftworld list, I'm honestly probably only running a Farseer and a Warlock. I'm probably not running a 3rd Psyker. There's really not a reason to. Just because of the way the detachments are and how you're building the lists, like there's really no reason to. I don't know that there's a huge reason to. If you're building a heavy Psyker list, like with like a giant Spear squad or a giant Wraithblade squad that you have to buff up, then you're going to have like 5 Psychers, and then you're just going to feed them secondaries. So like right now, you just wouldn't be building that for that exact reason. You're building your list wrong if you're playing like that right now, because you're going to give them free points. So yes, they will give them up, but their lists are not dependent on it. So I don't know that I can take that away.
So does that put? So you don't think that puts them down to a 9?
On secondary?
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know, because it's not something you have to do. You can build a list with 1 to 2 psychers, and then it doesn't matter.
Okay, so let's say like this then.
You can honestly hide the psychers too, and they don't get the points. So
in the list with what you have, like you don't feel like they give up, at least with the way you build your list. You're gonna have some vehicles. You're gonna have this. You're gonna have that. You don't feel like there is a specific thing. So if an army can do 2 on its own, you don't feel like there is a 3rd secondary that they just give up with the way you build a list right now.
No, because like I think even if you did build like a psyker list, so like let's say you just had like 2 Farseers and a Warlock on a bike, right? And they're like, abhor the Witch. Well, there's only a couple armies that can pick that one, and then when they do pick it, I can literally just say, okay, I'm going to go hide behind this building and wrap it with troops. I'm going to deny you 15 points. Oh, you picked Assassinate too? Okay, I'm going to deny you 30 points of the game, and I'm just going to go focus on the primary. So I think that there's a lot of play that you can do with that. And yes, if you build a full tank list, they give up a secondary. Like, I don't think that's a viable list for literally that reason. When I look at it, there are lists that are going to give it up, but they don't have to. There are so many lists out there where you can skate the line, right? You can be like, oh, I can just take 2 Wave Serpents. Okay, they're not going to go take a bring it down and get 6 points. Okay, I'm going to have 2 characters. They're not going to pick Assassinate. They're not going to pick Abhor the Witch. They're not going to be able to pick anything killy against me now at that point. So I've denied them all killing. They're not going to be able to pick any psychic stuff against me, because I'll just buff my psychers, to, be able to combat that at least once in the game. So it's like there's so many things that they can deny. You're forcing your opponent into they have to choose what their army can do, which is like raise the banners or deploy scramblers or teleport homers. And it's like, go ahead, pick raise the banners. My spears are going to jump over there and just take you off it. My warp spiders are going to jump over there and take you off it. Like, they have all these things that can move so fast to just mitigate the opponent's secondaries. It's so hard to counter it.
So I guess my question then is, like, from what we're looking at right now. Never mind. Just keep going. Never mind.
No. If you think it should go down, you can argue it. I don't think that the list that you have to play with Eldar is dependent to give up secondaries. That's all I'm saying.
I guess I've just kind of answered my own question, to be honest. Like, just but with the way we've rated it so far, with the exception of primary, like, and the way we've kind of talked about it is, I mean, it does come down to a pilot and stuff, but why are they not winning a lot of these like online tournaments that we're seeing? Because that's all we can really judge by. Why is Eldar not way higher up on the list versus like Space Marines and these other things?
Yeah. Right. So that's pretty simple. Nobody's playing them. Everybody's playing Harlequins, or they're playing something that's stronger than them.
Okay.
They're not playing them, and because the lists that people want to play are the lists that the secondary is probably like a 4. Like, right. There's so many lists out there that if you build it wrong by 1 or 2 units, you will give up secondaries. So like, if we want to rank it on that, then I would say like they're down to an 8 but you're not forced into those lists because I think their list potential is very good.
Okay. That was just my question.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's my argument for it.
Okay, so pretty high on secondaries. Are we leaving them at 10?
You guys can make that call. I'm voting a 10. I don't know how you bring them down from there.
I would say 9 or 10, but I'm okay with going either.
I played a lot of games at them, and it's just like stop the bleeding already. I can't. They just score whatever they want to on the secondary. It's just I have to stop them on primary. That's the only way I can win.
Yeah. I will tell you this. I max secondaries almost every single game, and I lose because of primaries against certain lists.
Interesting.
That's the only way I can ever have seen to stop them. Okay, so then from a CP perspective, do they have a lot of good stratagems? Are they spending a lot of CP pre-game? Are they spending them in-game? Do they lose power if they run out of CP? Mm-hmm. What's the story?
Pre-game, you don't need to spend anything.
They run out.
Yeah, I mean, they run out, but, like, it doesn't matter. I play 90% of my games no CP after turn 1. I'm not even kidding. Because I just spend all my CP right away. Now, in a pure Craftworld list, though, I think your CP lasts you for 3 turns. Especially now in 9th, you're really not lightning fast reactions too much because you have forests and like the -1 doesn't stack with other things. So like you're not going to use it. If you're using that with Craftworlds, you're just wasting CP essentially. So it's like you're fire and fading. You're buffing up your psychers a lot of times. You're re-rolling perils potentially. I find that I use most of my CP in my psychic phase because I'll spend a CP to, give +1 to cast. Maybe I'll cast an additional power with a Farseer, and I'll probably have to reroll perils on my warlock so he doesn't die. So typically I'm spending like 3 or 4 CP between psychic and then like the shooting phase of like a fire and fade or something like that. So maybe 3 to 4 CP a turn is probably what you're spending. And then I'll tell you where I spend like a lot of my CP is actually defensively on Shining Spear's Exarch saves. You're almost always going to re-roll one when you fail it if it's not a single damage to keep them alive a little longer. But you can only do that once a turn. So I think that you're safely going to be able to spend, I would say 5 CP because you're regenning CP for 3 turns in a row. And then by turn 4 and 5, you literally don't need it. So it doesn't matter. So I think they're really good. Their stratagems, I don't think they have anything that's like a super powerful thing besides, the fire prisms. Like their stratagem is crazy. They do have the redeploy strat. You can put stuff in deep strikes. So they do have some good pregame stuff if you have to spend it. But that's kind of here or there. So I don't think they have anything though that's like you're going to use this to win the game stratagem.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they have anything like that. They have these smaller stratagems that allow them to be effective in a phase or a unit to be effective, and they're very unit-specific stratagems that you might use once a game or twice a game, depending on if your list is built around it. And typically you'll see lists be built around like one specific stratagem, right? If you're building fire prisms, you're building your list around using the fire prism stratagem to reroll everything. If you're building a Sam Han list, you're building shining spears to be able to advance and charge and use that stratagem. So a lot of times you're building around a list around 1 to 2 stratagems, and those will be able to be done for 3 turns, and then after that you're fine with them not being done. So I don't think they're reliant on it. I don't think they're heavy hitting stratagems. So like, I think they're like just above middle of the road. I don't. There's nothing that's like a gotcha or anything like that. Nothing that's crazy.
I mean, Fire and Fade can kind of screw people, and it can redeploy, which is
so on the CP side, you're talking about a 6 or a 7 then?
I was thinking a 6, just because I don't think their stuff is like mind blowing in your face, too good to be true. Except for the linked fire on the fire prisms. But the second a fire prism goes down, that stratagem's null and void. So,
when's the last time you pulled out someone said pulled out a strat for Eldar, and you're like, wait, let me see that book, because that doesn't sound right.
Right.
You know,
that's why I would put them more in that middle of the road, because there's nothing that's like, oh, I'm building this list for this stratagem because it's going to break the game.
Now, something you said, let me back up a little bit. So something you said about like, in the old days, right? What kept Eldar alive was their stacking of the minuses, right? Like -2, -3, like you just can't kill their planes or their heavy firepower. But otherwise, it was somewhat fragile, right? 10 wounds, 12 wounds. Like you kind of said in the Tau video, the tanks, are easy to kill, no invul saves. Well, like most of the tanks for Eldar, no invul saves, right? Like, if you can get a line on a fire prism or a thing, you might have a 6-up feel no pain, but you're not taking an invul save. You might have cover because you took that special Craftworld. Does that devalue their defense a little bit, or is it still ranked?
I don't think so, because most of the vehicles you're going to put Spirit Stones on it, and you're probably, if you have a vehicle list, going to be running the cover stratagem, so you're going to have a 2-up native save. So you're typically going to have a 5-up save. Against most things. Very few things are going to give you that 6-up, so you're still going to have a 5-up, so it's like having an invuln against majority of things. Right. I think that makes up for it, and because they move so fast, they can go from cover to cover, and because they can fire and fade, there's a lot of ways to deter that. And so yes, I think they're stronger than the Tau tanks, though, in the fact of having the feel no pains, having the -1 damage, things like that, being in cover.
Not suffering the minus to really buffed up the Eldar tanks, right? So
and honestly, like having a 2-up save is a really big difference. Like a 5-up save versus 6-up save when you're being shot is the make it or break it point, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, it's fair enough. All right, so we talked about CP farm, but what do we got about list flex? So I think you took the thing.
Oh, whoops! I took it off the wrong one.
So what about list flex? Do they have the tools to change lists based on what other people are playing, or are they kind of locked in only a single build or two?
Right now, I think it's pretty limited, to be honest. I know they have a lot of units, but you're not seeing. Well, number one, you're not, like Brad said, you're not really even seeing them that much.
Well, right. So it's what is their flexibility, though, right? So it's like, do they have the flexibility to change lists? Yes, they do. They can go and hunt tank. They can go hunt infantry. They can change their weapons. They can build whatever they want. I think that they probably are limited in some ways. Like, I don't think that they're a 10 on list flexibility, mainly just because there are key units that you're almost going to want to include in every build. And kind of if you don't include them, I'll use Shining Spears for an example. If you don't have Shining Spears, I think you start to lose out a lot on their offense, a lot on their primary, a lot on their secondaries. And same thing with like Warp Spiders. Like, the way 9th is built in these missions that we're grading this around, like, you need to have Warp Spiders in your list. Like, they are like the best unit for Eldar right now. So I think right now you want to have certain things in your list, and that would bring it down for me, because I think no matter what you do with their list flexibility, you're always going to want to have these unless the missions change.
Right.
And so, with the missions and the meta changing and stuff like that, they can change everything, but you're going to want to include these core couple units so that you have that flexibility to do the secondaries and do the primaries.
Yeah, so you're building those units that are kind of auto includes for the secondaries. You kind of less points that you have to kind of tune the rest of your list, right? So that kind of limits their flex. Okay, so, that's fair.
Yeah,
I see pretty high rate right now. So I mean, are we missing anything?
So does this need to go down at all though?
I would probably take off one more
to 7.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I kind of see there's a lot of core things like you always typically see.
Yes. Yes, there is.
So
and you always see the Wraith Seer, the Dune Seer. Yeah, I mean
you have some Psyker, right? Which the Farseer on a bike, or now like the Wraith Seer guys are really coming more into their own.
Or Cat Lady, right? Like that. She's. Yep. I mean, she's been
adding in the Ynnari stuff. Yeah.
Been usually included.
All right, so I think that's pretty good, but I think that's going to rank them pretty high. Like,
that is going to rank them pretty high. That puts them at 48.
48, right?
It's a high A.
Yeah. Eldar. Who knew? I think we had them in B last time.
Yeah, we had them in B. So I mean, it makes sense. They have the tools. The reason you don't see them right now is because they're not the meta, right? There's all these other lists that are just more meta and safer picks, and you know, why go outside meta? Why not play Space Marines, right? Like everybody wants to play that stuff, and I think that like the top players haven't been to events yet that play Eldar. Like I haven't seen Sean Naden playing an event yet in 9th, right? Like so you got all these like top players that haven't come out yet and like really played Eldar at events. And then that's what's going to start to set like, oh, look how good they are. Look how they're being used, how they're being played. We just haven't seen enough of it for people to like agree with, hey, they're up there. You know, I'm the one who wanted to put them in C. Remember?
Fair.
Like, I did. Like, I wanted to put them really low.
Yeah. You're the one playing them, but yeah, they have a lot of tools. Playing against them, they are just like they could be anywhere on the map, and that's so powerful at night. So it's just really strong.
Well, cool. That does it for.
Go ahead. Yeah, if you get in there and disrupt them, you might have a chance. But they are very, very strong. So.
And that does it for the Craftworld. Like, comment, subscribe, do all fun things. Peace out.
Thank you, guys.
See you next time. Thanks.